Hey everyone, welcome to Movie Marathons HQ, where we do movie marathons connected to new releases and where we enjoy and review some of our favorite movies. This video is part of the Avatar Fire and Ash movie marathon, where we are watching one movie every week as we prepare for the release of Avatar Fire and Ash in December 2025. Today we are discussing Avatar. Released in 2009 and directed by James Cameron, this became and remains the highest grossing film of all time when not adjusted for inflation. I had a really weird experience with this movie. When it was released, I was living in South America doing the whole Christian Mormon mission thing. And so as a missionary, I didn't go see movies, I didn't keep up to date with pop culture, and was just kind of focused on other things for those 2 years. And I remember being in a mall during that time, and I saw a movie poster for this movie called Avatar, and it was the classic teaser poster with the half of a blue face and then the other half obscured in shadow, and then it was called Avatar. I had no clue what it was, and I knew the word Avatar and I knew what an avatar meant, but I thought maybe this is connected to the anime Avatar, which was very popular. And then as a few weeks went on, people were telling me about this new movie called Avatar, and as they were describing it, that it's this alien planet with blue people, and they were just telling me about the visual effects and the 3D stuff. The way they described it sounded really lame, and I was not interested at all in this movie, but people were just going on and on about how incredible this was. But as a missionary, I didn't go see it. So when I got home, after the 2 years were done, the first movie I wanted to watch was Avatar. So I got the movie and then went to a friend's house who had a theater room, and this was my first thing I wanted to watch. So it was my first movie after a very, very long movie drought. Overall, I like this movie. I don't love it, but it is enjoyable, and because it had such a lead up where I heard about this movie before I actually got to see it, it had pretty high expectations that I don't think it reached. Maybe that would have been different had I seen it when it was released, when it was in the pop culture zeitgeist, but because I was late to the party, that might have affected it. But the positives are the visuals, the Na'vi language, the score, the Colonel Quaritch character, and the home tree scene. And the negatives are the story and the character of Jake Sully. Spoiler warning for Avatar, though I'm not going to spoil Avatar Fire and Ash when that releases. The first positive for this movie are the visuals. Everyone knows that the visuals in this movie are breathtaking. James Cameron, the director, had a vision for what he wanted this movie to be, and it's well recorded that he waited until there was technology available to do the scenes in a way that fit his vision. But yeah, the visuals in this movie are incredible, and the way that the environment interacts with the Na'vi and the Na'vi interact with the environment is very, very impressive. I know that this was a movie that came out that revolutionized 3D in theaters. When I came home and saw it, it wasn't in 3D, and so I know you can get 3D TVs and stuff and watch from home, but I didn't really get a proper theater 3D experience until the re-release in 2022, I think. So it was a very long time coming for me to actually experience the 3D in theaters. But yeah, the visuals are very spectacular in this movie, so it's certainly the first positive. The next positive is the Na'vi language. I'm a real sucker for languages, and for this movie, the production team actually hired a linguist to create a Na'vi language for the actors to use in the movie. Because Zoe Saldana portrays a character named Neytiri, she uses the most of the Na'vi language, so it continued to evolve as she used it in her acting. And I haven't studied the Na'vi language a whole lot, and I don't know a lot of what is included in there. But it's just awesome that they decided to really create a language so that this movie would work. So that's always a positive, even though I don't know what they're saying and I don't really understand how the language works. It's just cool. Another positive would be the movie's score. This movie is composed by James Horner, who's a well-respected composer. And while this score overall isn't too memorable for me, there is a theme which is played during the sad moments of this movie that I think is really, really memorable and impactful. It's at a few scenes where a character dies. It's at a scene that I'll discuss later involving Home Tree. So that theme in particular really stands out to me. And when I picture the scenes in my head where that scene is, where that score is played, that score also comes back to me. So the overall score doesn't stand out a whole lot, but I do really like that one theme. Another positive to mention is the movie's villain. Colonel Quaritch, portrayed by Stephen Lang, is awesome. I know he's pretty one note and doesn't have a lot of depth, but as a military bad guy, he just crushes it. From his look and the scars on his face that aren't explained, but you can fill in the gaps, to his whole persona, he just commands authority. So as he goes through the movie and tells people what to do and they follow his orders, I feel like I understand why they follow his orders. He's a very commanding presence and a really great villain for this movie. And we're going to get into the negatives of what the story is and the role he fits in the story. But he just is a really, really standout performance in this, and I had no idea who the actor was, but he certainly was memorable here. So I really like the Colonel Quaritch character, and especially how Stephen Lang portrays him. And finally, there is the scene involving Home Tree. So I gave a spoiler warning because if you hadn't seen the movie, this would be a big spoiler. But when the humans come and they destroy Home Tree, I think that whole scene is phenomenal. The build-up is really great because you understand what's at stake for the Na'vi people if this tree is destroyed. And then you also feel like it's this immovable object and this unstoppable force. That's what it is. It feels like they're going to come into contact and you don't know which way it's going to go. Are they going to be successful in destroying Home Tree, or are the Na'vi going to stop them? When, of course, the bad guys win and they destroy Home Tree, that score comes in, and that's again where it's, to me, is so powerful, and I get emotional watching this fake tree on this fake planet with these fake aliens. But that scene is very, very strong, and I really like how it's executed and everything about it. So it's kind of weird to highlight a particular scene as a positive, but I just really enjoyed that scene. And now for negatives. The story is very simple, and everybody knows this. It's Pocahontas and Dances with Wolves and all those classic stories where the outsider comes in and is initially rejected, but then over time becomes accepted as one of their own, and then something bad happens and they realize the outsider actually knew this was going to happen, so then they reject him, and how could we have trusted you? And then the outsider wins them back. Very simple, very straightforward. They don't even add a lot to it, other than it's this science fiction world, and so he's in a fake body. But the story is just very weak and flimsy, and I don't know if it should be expected to be greater, but this is how the first one went. So the story is a negative because we've seen it before. And then the final negative, I would just say, is the character of Jake Sully. He's portrayed by Sam Worthington, who doesn't do a terrible job. I do like one aspect of the character, which is that, I suppose it's two aspects. One is that he's the twin of a brother who was a brilliant scientist who was supposed to be the person on this mission to pilot this Avatar, but because he died, they had to bring in Jake, who's a military marine guy and is not at all prepared for this. I like that aspect of it, and I also like that he's in a wheelchair, so that when he gets into the Avatar body, James Cameron does a great job showing us the feeling of how it would be if you got your legs back, even though it's in this weird sci-fi setting. They really, really do that. There's a scene where Jake digs his Avatar toes into the dirt, which he can't do in his human form. So I really like that. Those are the things I like, but then overall the character of Jake Sully is kind of annoying. I don't cheer for him. I don't get behind him, even when he's making emotional connections with the Na'vi. I don't care about it. When they discover that he was kind of treasonous the whole time, I don't care that he was betrayed. And then when he's trying to redeem himself at the end and get back in their good graces, I just don't care. So something about how the character is portrayed doesn't work for me, and I don't root for him, which is too bad because he's the main character and kind of the flagship character. So I like aspects of the character, and I don't know if it's the actor's fault or the director's fault or the story's fault, but something about the character just doesn't stand out to me for a protagonist. Now, how might Avatar connect to Avatar Fire and Ash? Well, of course, it will continue the adventures of Jake Sully and Neytiri, and it seems like the villains in Avatar Fire and Ash have abandoned their belief in Eywa. This first movie is where we get introduced to the deity of Eywa. Some of the quotes that I wrote down is that Eywa is their deity, their goddess made up of all living things and everything they know. And then when Sigourney Weaver's character Grace dies, she says to Jake, "I'm with her, Jake. She's real," referencing that for her, in her deathbed moment, she is in contact with this deity Eywa, that it's not just a made-up thing by the people. So that's going to really come into focus in Avatar Fire and Ash. And it's just going to be a continuation of the story on Pandora. They're going to meet a new group of people, but they'll have this spiritual difference, which I think is interesting. So that's how I think it will connect. So that's my review of Avatar. What do you think of this movie, and how do you think it might connect to Avatar Fire and Ash? Make sure to leave a comment below and let me know what you think. The next movie in this marathon is Avatar: The Way of Water. Follow Movie Marathons on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, as well as on Letterboxd, where you can check out all of the movie marathons we have going on right now. See you at the movies!